Welcome to the GSMC Pets Podcast, the show that caters to pet lovers of all kinds. We'll talk about pets on social media, pets doing amazing things, and how to take care of the pets in your life. Whether your pet is a dog, a cat, a llama, hamster, reptile, or something more exotic, you'll find educational and entertaining information on the GSMC Pets Podcast.
Well, hello, and thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Pets Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Samantha Melvin, and I also have a co-host today, Cookie, who is just sitting in a bag that is hung around my neck like a horse feeder, and she is watching me talk to absolutely no one, physically, no one. So she must be quite confused. But she's still staying calm and resting in the bag. So, why does she let me do this? That's kind of a good question, right? Because sometimes dogs get very antsy. And the thing is, I noticed some positive responses to me putting her in a bag at some point. The first time was when I took her to the vet and they were giving me all kinds of food for the other animals. And I picked Cookie up and was like, you need to go somewhere. And I put her into my purse. And she fit in there and she was quiet, calm. She even fell asleep. So those are pretty good signs that this dog is able to tolerate this. So I kind of see it as her kind of working out with this issue of being kind of closed in. But, over time I tried to entice her into going into basically any bag that could fit her. And for the most part I have two bags that she feels comfortable about. And that's my purse and a blue Myers bag that I got for free. But there are still problems that can arise, and that would be a poor approach to training. And that doesn't mean that people that are poor trainers can not have dogs or cats. It's just that you need help getting that together. So if I didn't train Cookie, she would have been flailing about and traumatizing herself as well as me. Because, well, a dog in distress is always a very heartbreaking thing. But this goes for all dogs, not just Cookie. However, there is going to be something even more that could cause a real barrier and disruption to your household, and will even make your dog the least liked dog in the neighborhood as well as in the daycare. And this is called bully behavior. This is previously known as dominating behavior. So let's talk about it. Now, we really need to know exactly what is bully behavior, and then we can talk about, training tips to change this. But even though you know the training, you need to figure out, I need to figure out my timing on this. And then that also means we need to think about if there's still a little bit of trouble. What was the puppy's childhood like? And what kind of interventions happened at puppyhood? And then if you still have some problems, there's also something called a mediator dog. And you'll learn more about that in a few segments. And that's it. Until all of or most of these things are considered and utilized, nothing is going to change. But don't worry, we can lighten the mood because we know that dog bullies happen to be so extra, and oh yes, you guys know, I know this. So let's just go back to talking about Cookie becoming a bag dog. Not a bad dog, a bag dog. So let's get started. bully behavior is basically like humans being a bully in school. Or even like older people can be bullies too. The only difference is that our pets have paws, they have cute little snoots, they have nice fine fur, they take naps whenever you give them a good treat and you bundle them up. Man, pets are the best. Humans kind of suck for the most part. But some things that you need to look out for, and this list is essentially something that has to be a combination of things rather than, oh, well, my dog likes to snatch treats and they don't want to wait or pay attention to their parents. So here's a list, and if you run into multiple, then you might have a dog that is a bully, and we need to fix that. So one of the things is getting angry or excited very quickly, but taking much longer to calm down. And, well, we're going to run Regina through this list. Let's see. Regina doesn't really get angry, but she does get very excited, and it's like a skyrocket, 200 degrees. That's why they call her Mrs. Fahrenheit. And there is the other side of this where she takes a really long time to calm down. And that has caused a lot of frustration and a difficulty training her sometimes. One thing that I have been successful at, and again, this kind of depends on consistency, it's preventing snatching treats or failing to wait for permission or command to take a treat. And I am actually quite proud of this. Regina is getting it. She's getting all that that direction when it comes to her treats. Except when Cookie's around and she wants to steal Cookie's treats, which is again bully behavior. So we gotta fix that. Now, destructive behavior, particularly when excited, well, not so much for her. She likes ripping up her toys, so I guess that's kind of, destructive behavior. So, and then there's excessive growling and barking. That could be definitely a problem. And Reggie does do this, especially towards me and my husband. And it's more of her trying to get our attention, but she keeps on barking whenever she needs something, and we don't know what she needs. So that's kind of in our court, basically, to be more attentive to her needs. Like, as I said in my last episode, well, kind of like a bell might be able to help with the puppy potty training, but like for other behaviors, it's going to be kind of difficult with that. Now, there is also inability to focus or follow commands, especially in new situations, which, yes, we still have that, because she just gets overexcited. And then directly staring at other dogs while holding the body and tail rigid. That's basically her when she's staring out the window. And that's very difficult to kind of disengage her from that situation. So that's something that we're still working on. And this is one of the most frustrating things on this list, and it's pinning playmates to the ground and ignoring signs of submission. So Reggie does this a lot with Cookie, and we know that Reggie wants to play, but she wants to play her own way, and then Cookie is then pinned to the ground, and or bowled over, and she's basically trying to tell Reggie, hey, I'm done, don't do this to me anymore, and Reggie continues. So, again, behavior that we're working on right now. And then, of course, there's this excessive mounting as a domination tactic rather than mating, and you can see that too. I have not seen Reggie do that, but who knows, maybe if we don't get her in control, she might do that in the future. Now, it's always very frustrating when it comes to Cookie and Reggie just kind of living on their own without us. Because sometimes, right now we go to work remotely, so they see us almost every single day. And, that kind of helps calm Reggie down because she isn't going to get so wound up by honestly being alone all the time and napping and, all that kind of stuff that just kind of stirs a lot of excitement in a dog. And, yeah, the separation anxiety is one of those things. But she also kind of goes after Eisen, too, whenever she can get down into his bachelor pad. And Eisen is, like, the number one very best in our family, just flat out. He is the oldest. No, he's not the oldest. Cookie is the oldest at 14. He's 13. And we basically have both senior dogs. And a senior dog and a senior cat. See, back to my Manx episode, like, I sometimes mistake Eisen as a dog. Not physically, but whenever I think of him, he makes me think of a dog. But, like, you have two senior pets. One has a heart murmur. The other one has a hyperthyroid problem. And then we have Reggie, who continues to stress them out. And that becomes a problem because, well, we don't want Cookie to get so wound up and, just anxious because, well, another dog is coming into the room and she's thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta get away. Or Eisen is always hiding whenever Reggie comes around the corner. And those are things that are not okay. So these are behaviors that need to be taken care of, or, well, you start losing control of your household. We're not at that point right now, thank God. Reggie is not the worst bully, but if we don't train her at this point, and she's 1 year old now, she might grow up into a really big bully, and then people will start kind of thinking, oh my gosh, this dog is vicious. This dog can hurt my poor little dogs or my kids. And, it's because, not just because she's a bully, but you have that layer on top of it that she's a pit bull mix, and she looks very pit bull, minus a few Boston Terrier traits. So then you have that scary thought of people calling someone about your dog being a nuisance. And again, I say your dog as in my baby Reggie. So it's very important for the sake of your dog, especially considering, what kind of breed they are, but also just for all dogs in general. It's good to have good manners. And overall, the manners are kind of managed with Cookie and Eisen, but Reggie still needs a lot of work because we suspect that maybe there are some things that caused this behavior to happen. And we will get to talking about that in a few minutes. So let's take a break.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
So we're back, and we were talking just recently about, well, bully behavior in your dogs, and what it means to be a bully. How do you point out what a bully dog is? And again, it's not like a pit bull or a bull terrier. No, it's none of those. It's actually just a dog that doesn't have good manners. And there are tips and tricks about how you can actually help your pet become a better individual. So one thing is that you need consistency before you even start on everything else. You need to have consistency, or else, well, they won't know what you want. And another thing that I actually ran into that really shocked me was the avoidance of using the word no, and also keeping the dog's name out of the conversation, essentially. Because if your dog gets in trouble, which it's okay, that happens, but you should not start associating their name with the bad stuff. Okay? Because, well, then they won't want to listen to their name because, well, it's related to bad stuff. And it goes on, the same page as, say Regina is playing with Cookie, and then Regina decides to pin Cookie and bark in her face. Well, this is something that you can actually do really fast, and it's being consistent with timeouts. So when I say timeout, with Reggie and Cookie in this scenario, I would basically take Reggie and put her into her timeout place. Because I'm just saying to her, alright, you're being mean, fun time ends. You cannot do this. So basically you're quickly associating the behavior with the punishment. And I hate using punishment, but that's kind of the best way to describe it. And we've just recently started doing this. We've typically started to use just a 10-minute timeout. She comes out, if she goes back to her negative behavior, then we say, okay, timeout again. And you're not yelling this at them. You're trying to be as calm as possible so that they can meet you at that calm point. Because if you start yelling at them, they're going to start, being difficult. Because, they're yelling, I can start yelling too. It's all kind of tied together like that. And, kind of think of it as trying to do like a clicker method. You can use a clicker if you like, but essentially like the timeout is that clicker. So if they do wrong, then they go into the timeout. Click, click, right? And it doesn't really matter what verb or phrase that or word or phrase that you're using, because, you need to just make sure it's short. Like, dogs don't truly understand linguistically no and their name. They just know that, they keep on calling me this, so I'll respond to this. Now, something like timeout or no thanks in a neutral tone, perfect. So we say timeout and we take Reggie. But whenever they do something negative, and this is something funny that I actually found, it's pretty much you use the word oops. Oops. So basically you're saying oops whenever they are getting into some trouble. And the writer of this article said there is no possible way that you can say oops with a frown on your face, basically. Whereas with no, you get that frown, you get the oops, which, again, I find myself laughing at myself because I'm saying oops. And this is basically to kind of mark the escalation of everything. So if oops doesn't work, try it again. If it doesn't work again, then then we usually mention that ask her, do you want to go to timeout? And normally that'll help. But if she pushes, then we say timeout and we take her away. And also, it's kind of related to behavior that Reggie has in the backyard. Sometimes she can get out into the neighbor's yard. She can, go under the fence. And it's like a chain link fence. But she wants to play hard with the other dogs. And we've actually resorted to putting her on a leash because, well, she obviously cannot. She obviously wants to play hard, and she needs to be shown, no, you can't do that. Now, we haven't had any instances where the dogs have come out at the same time, anymore, and I imagine that the neighbor is kind of trying to avoid that. But it's showing Reggie that she has to follow the boundaries. And normally, when we call her back in and she's on the leash, she comes immediately back. So it's kind of reinforcing that behavior, giving positive reinforcement when they do something good. And that's something that everyone says, but you don't really have a good idea of what positive reinforcement means. And positive reinforcement is like maybe giving them a treat, maybe petting them and cooing at them, but you're trying to, again, emphasize, hey, this is good behavior, and I want you to be happy about that. And I would say that one of the best things that we've done is put her on that leash out when we go outside in the backyard, because she's set on getting one mission done. It's the number 1 and number 2. Now, we don't do this to Cookie because, well, she just kind of lies down and she sleeps a lot, senior dog stuff. And, well, I would say that we should probably put Reggie on a leash when she's inside, but this is awful, but for one of our leashes, she chewed it up. She was basically tethered to me at my table, and she just started, slowly chewing away at it. And I wasn't listening. I wasn't paying attention to that because I was working on grading papers. And then it's just like Reggie's roaming around with a part of the leash, just kind of dragging behind her. And essentially, I was too late in doing some sort of punishment. Because she had already, done the act. She'd been walking around. Nobody confronted her about it. So she kind of got a free ticket there. But again, we could start off with leashing her in home, which would be good. It would again start emphasizing, hey, you can't chase after Eisen because he's around. You can't bully Cookie because she's, we need to train Cookie on this too, but she's way old. But Cookie sometimes takes Reggie's food or her snacks. And because Reggie always takes away her snacks. So the second that she gets a chance, she goes for it. Which is not a smart idea, but that's Cookie for you. But the leash keeps her from going after her. And that's the major thing, because the second that Reggie is rigid and staring down Cookie, she will basically, bully her way and push her way into her food, her treat, whatever Cookie is getting at. And my husband says, well, that's kind of Cookie's fault, but we really shouldn't focus on whose fault it is. It's whose behavior we have to correct. And I think that's the major thing. So I would say overall, for us, we've included basically a counting down from 5 and sometimes 3. And then sometimes we just kind of mix with the numbers because she knows 1 in the word timeout. So we're trying to show her that whenever she does do negative behavior, well, we can decide, well, when does she go to timeout? So we need to show her that, hey, if you do this all the time or you do something that's really bad, well, you're going to go to timeout. And you won't get that countdown. So it's all kind of doing kind of a basic level of consistent reinforcement, both positive and negative. Positive, well, hey, you get treats, you get love. Negative, well, we are taking something fun away from you. We're maybe putting you away so that you can calm down and know that, hey, we don't want you to do, this certain behavior. And I think that's really important to remember when you're training your dog. And I could probably come up with more training tips, but I can hold on to that for a little bit. But one thing, and I'll leave you with this, and I learned this from another trainer. Basically, if you have your dog's eyes on you, they're definitely paying attention to you. If they don't, then there's no point in, trying to train them, because you need to make sure that they're focusing on you and you alone. Anyway, that is really about it when it comes to tips and tricks. It's not like I have the entire meaning of life written in a book. We all know that it's, 42 or something like that? Yeah, 42. But, you still have these basic tools. And I will go ahead and say this, never hit your dog. Because that's abuse. And also, that makes them afraid of you. And they won't want to listen to you if they're afraid of you. Or they will have serious anxiety because of that. But anyway, what we're going to be talking about next is timing of your training, of how you react to your furry friend. And we'll be back after the commercial.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
So, we are back, and we were just talking about tips and tricks that you can use to train your puppy, or your full-grown dog, whichever. And, well, we didn't really talk much, or did we even talk at all about the timing of your training and of your rewarding or punishing of your little friend. And, well, that's probably one of the more important things. That's why I decided to have a separate section for that. And basically, I'm just going to provide examples of how we do something and what you can do. And, well, for one thing, let's get started on, let's see, a story. Let's start off with a story. So, one day, I was sitting at home, and the couch was basically ripped to shreds, basically. Like, the very bottom of it. And, you know, it wasn't pretty, and I hated it, but I couldn't really do anything about it. And there's a reason for that. But at that time, when I finally noticed it, Regina was just kind of sitting in her little bed and just chewing on a real chew instead of the, furniture chew. And I couldn't, I was very upset about the couch because, well, that's my couch. I spent money on it, and now it looks terrible. What am I supposed to do about that? Replacing the couch is going to be very difficult because it costs money. Man, why did Regina do that? but, you know, you're upset about it, and that's very reasonable. But you can't take that energy and put that upon your dog at the time, because you have no idea how long ago she did it. And, well, this kind of goes back to, well, what amount of time has to pass before your dog just doesn't associate things with time and just behavior. And I mean, if I were to have started yelling at, well, I have never yelled in my entire life, actually. If some people could probably believe that. But, you know, if I had gone to Reggie, scolded her, and took her to timeout, she would have associated something so different from what I was thinking. And that would be, well, I was in my bed with my chew, and then you took me to timeout. Because that's the immediate thing that happened. She's not going to recall or associate the couch with me being upset with her. It's going to be, oh, I was chewing on my bone, and now everything's bad. So it really gets down to that. Like, what happens when you just treat your dog in a manner that is like, hey, you did this, you did wrong, I don't care when you did it, but you did it. And it's not productive at all. It really isn't. And you have to really be conscientious about how you handle certain things too. But we already talked about that. But another story that I have, and this was from a coworker at work, a friend at work, and she had recently gotten a puppy. Her name is Chula. And, well, this puppy is kind of barricaded to the kitchen during the day while she's at work. So she has free reign, but she mostly sleeps during the entire day, which means she gets the zoomies late at night. So my friend has the Ring app on her phone, and also she has like a little camera pointed toward the kitchen so that she can see basically everything that's going on in the kitchen. Well, one day, Chula decided to chew on something that was not hers. I could not tell what it was, but she was chewing on something she didn't need to chew on. And here's the really great thing about what my friend had done, and it was, press a button, and she just spoke into this, to her phone, and her voice was like right in the kitchen, like just a kind of a walkie-talkie kind of thing, I guess. But she scolded the dog, and the dog, Chula was very well behaved, and she was very startled. So of course she stopped, and then she started trying to look for her mom, which, I guess that's kind of unfair to the dog, but the behavior was stopped by someone, and she was redirected to something else. And we don't really talk much about, like, the redirect part. So, for instance, if your dog is, chewing at your shoes, you redirect them immediately. And you show that something is, this is the thing that you chew. You don't chew on my stuff. And I would say that I was going to look for Eisen, but he's not here. But for Eisen in particular, he's a very smart cat. So he can, I'm not saying that he has the ability to associate different situations in his head to now, but I can say that he's a very fast learner, and he's very observant. So whenever we do some training with him, like the toilet training from a long time ago, he would basically come to us and say, hey, I did what you wanted me to do, so where's my treat? And then that's kind of the problem when you give your pets too many treats at that point. You're eventually going to have to start cutting back on it because, you want them to use the bathroom because, you want them to use the bathroom on their own terms, not on, here's a treat. So, again, that's all about timing and knowing the status of your pet during this training time. And I mean, Eisen is a pretty good boy. He could probably still, use the bathroom and the toilet, but he chooses not to. At one point he did fall into the toilet. But when you look at Cookie, Cookie is a very difficult dog, and we all know that Cookie is a difficult dog, okay? I'm trying. But for Cookie, she doesn't respond very well, and it's probably because she's decided to become a stubborn old grandma in her golden years, essentially. So that's fine. But it gets really irritating when she continues to do behavior that we don't like. And most of her stuff is not destructive, it's just annoying. And, well, timing for her doesn't seem to matter. She just kind of ignores everything. She acts all cute and stuff, which is very, very manipulative, but very effective. And she just is a lap dog. That's all I can say. I don't want to... She's a toy poodle. I thought that toy poodles were very trainable. But apparently this one that we got is not very trainable. Who knows what happened to her in her past? Who knows how, Reggie, before we found her at 4 months, we don't know what was happening with her beforehand. So we're going to start talking after the break about, well, the dog's puppyhood and what it was like and how were they treated, all that kind of stuff that, that is actually really related to human beings, right? We have our childhood years, and we are directly affected by how we are treated as children. We're created by the experience, and there's so much to talk about there. And it's just, I'm not an animal behaviorist, but sometimes I do kind of want to, I do wish I was one, because it's so interesting to really be involved with animals and trying to understand them in a different way. But I can at least say that I understand Eisen in a different kind of way than the other dogs. I'm still trying to get used to Reggie and trying to think, okay, what works best for this girl? And typically it's just not a stern hand, but a stern voice and consistency. Consistency is going to be the very important thing for you, because if you're not consistent in the timing, well, then they're going to not change their behavior, or they're going to associate different behaviors that you witness versus the thing that they did that was from way before. So that's kind of the important part here. Being consistent with timing, making sure that you're able to stop right in the middle of the action or directly after that action. And, then that's your chance to do the pet shaming, right? Alright, we are going to go on a break, and, well, we will be talking about puppyhood of our puppies. Alright, be right back.
Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then, the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
To stick around. And, well, we were just talking about timing when it comes to your pets, basically, when you're training your pets. And we're kind of going to be hinting at timing for this segment, which is basically puppyhood and, well, kittenhood too. We'll talk about that. But what I want to say at first is that we didn't really get Reggie when she was super young, and we didn't really know if she was taken from her litter, or if there wasn't really any other option for her to get socialized with her siblings. Like, basically, when puppies are born, or kittens, well, they're usually with the entire family unit, and that's when they start really trying to discover the boundaries that should be set. And it seems to me, to some extent, that Reggie does not have that. It could just be her personality, that she's a bully, or it could be the reasoning of her being so in your face is because she doesn't know any better. Basically during her beginning of life, she was essentially, just maybe doing whatever she wanted. And, I mean, that does happen. It really does. Or else we wouldn't have bully dogs. And I would say that it's kind of sad imagining sweet little Reggie, being in a litter and not really doing much socializing, because, well, that means that she doesn't know boundaries, right? And I will say that this all goes back to timing and training. If, in the formative years, like when she was a very small puppy, like a baby, like if she didn't have that, then, well, if she did have that, then she would probably be more well-adjusted. So, essentially what Eric and I are doing, apparently, is creating those boundaries. And there are times when, well, let me back up. So, after we got Reggie, we were like, okay, she's being a little difficult. Maybe she would be better if we had an older dog with her. And this is how we ran into Cookie, to be honest. But we contacted my friend with the rescue, and we were looking at the dogs that she had, and we were like, oh, we should, get this one. This one looks like a good one. And, well, problem was, when they met, the other dog hated Reggie. And Reggie was being ridiculously poorly mannered. And it was very, it made me kind of ashamed for her. But because that didn't work out, we ended up, well, going over to her house and returning that dog to inside. And we were trying to figure out, well, what kind of, what are our options? And at the time, Cookie was being brought up from Kentucky to this rescue. And, well, just, we saw Cookie, and I had already been talking about Cookie because, well, she was on Facebook like multiple times, and she made me think of my old family dog. And just, it made sense because, well, Cookie at that time, well, she was 13, and she was an older dog. Hopefully she was nice and calm. And, well, then we decided we'll take her. And we brought her home, and she was very sweet and quiet. After, especially after her bath, like, it was amazing how calm she was in the bath. But, like, we gradually started learning that Cookie definitely is not a calm dog. We don't know what happened in her earlier years. Eric and I kind of suspect that maybe she was part of a puppy mill, but we don't really know. Because, well, she has some disfigurements. Like, very small disfigurements, but, whenever you, really touch at her, you start kind of feeling stuff. Like, benign tumors now at this point, but her mouth and teeth are really weird. But that's beside this. So, for Cookie in particular, we don't know, like, what her past was and how that set her up for socialization. it seemed to me that she was like an only dog with her original owner. And when they passed away, she didn't have anyone. So now she's in a house with a dog and a cat, and she probably doesn't know how to behave around them because she's used to being the only dog. So now, we didn't really think this through, obviously. We just saw Cookie, and she needed a home, and she was adorable, and we wanted, in my own selfish ways, I wanted to have a chance to really make up for the missed time that I had for the old dog, because we were going to actually bring the old dog to us. But that's a story in and of itself. But, we brought Cookie home. I had some things about her were confirmed, confirmed by her behavior, which was very tricky. And then over the weeks, we noticed that Cookie got nastier and nastier. She didn't like being, one of many pets. So Cookie would, lash out sometimes and tell Reggie to stop. And then that kind of gets back into we have a dog that is already a bully, and she's kind of bothering a dog that, wasn't poorly socialized, but wasn't really, didn't have a really good background for socializing. But all of this kind of, again, goes back to timing. Once they're puppies, or when they're babies, this is when you need to, really start reinforcing these boundaries. So if one of the puppies in the litter, gets hurt by another dog, they will usually, cry out and show themselves as submissive. And that would basically be like, hey, back off, I don't want this. Or, chewing in particular, because chewing is a big thing in our household. But, having a chew ring and then, reinforcing, hey, as a little puppy, you don't want to bite my toes, you want to bite this thing. And again, it's just them at a very young age. I mean, it's kind of like kids, they're like sponges, right? And I'd say that everything that that a baby knows and little kids know, well, it's just kind of a result of observation and individual interactions with other people. And that's kind of like the baseline. When you start getting older, you kind of join in a community that you can't really change very much because you're already in it. You can eventually leave it, possibly, but you're in that community, and there are rules and other things that need to be followed. But if you're not conditioned that way, well, tough luck. It's going to be difficult for you to really adjust. So the older that they get, the more difficult it is to really change behavior. But it is possible. I mean, we're changing behavior with Reggie. She's only a year old, and she probably could have used more direction from us when she was getting older, when she was a really small puppy. But that is just the unfortunate thing, that we weren't sure what we were getting into with Reggie. And she's just a cute little baby, and I know that's probably the wrong attitude to have with that, but those things are changing. I definitely don't want her to be poorly trained at age 2, because then it just kind of, I feel like that kind of behavior sets in, and it's really hard to kind of readjust that behavior. But, I mean, if they can't readjust the behavior in a multi-dog household, well, there is a possibility of, a dog mediator. And not a human dog mediator, because that seems kind of weird, but a dog mediator. And I will talk more about that after this commercial break.
The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
And welcome back. And we were talking just now about puppies and their puppyhood and how they develop their manners during this really crucial point in their lives. And, well, what if everything that you do right now isn't working? What if you need a dog mediator? And when I say dog mediator, I mean like a dog mediator that is a dog. Nothing, nothing more than that. So, the really big thing about mediator dogs is that they have a great understanding of social groups of dogs, and they're often called conflict mediators. They understand and they use their canine language perfectly, and they rarely start fights. And they actually kind of intervene in fights too between other dogs just to resolve the conflict, because these mediator dogs actually tend to have very calm demeanors. They're very aware of what they do and how they approach things. It's pretty impressive, and they just aim for intervention rather than injuring the dog. So it's kind of like the opposite, in a way, of how mediation works. But there's definitely some intervention that has to happen. For instance, well, sometimes Reggie gets a little bit out of hand. And sometimes I have Cookie on my lap, and Reggie is trying to, bat at me, and she's trying to tell me something, and then Cookie gets really tense about this. And then she starts growling, and she, tries to nip at Reggie. Kind of like a stop it, don't do that. Sometimes I kind of get in the way of her intervening between Reggie and me, and she, kind of nips at me sometimes. But overall, sometimes Cookie can be a good dog to intervene, but she's not there to injure Reggie. She's just there to send a message. And well, these dogs, and I'm not saying that Cookie is one of these dogs particularly, but they really do have a way of making decisions to kind of wait on permission to fix a problem that the owners have to do. They are usually there to sweep in, say, okay, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? Oh, they're fighting? Let me intervene. That's kind of what I'm getting from them. And they actually really do have a really high self-esteem, and that's mostly because, well, nobody really hurts it in a way. Not purposefully, but, indirectly. And these dogs hardly hold a grudge, and they help resolve those fights without letting it impact on the long-term relationship of these animals in the social group. And I think that's actually pretty cool to have. And I think I actually know a dog that could be a perfect mediator dog, like an official one. And I'm just bringing up all dogs for my friends today. So I'm talking about Darby. And she is about 5 years old now. And she is a very calm dog, very obedient dog too. And this was when Reggie was a very mild 5-month-old. And we brought Darby and her family home, to our place. And first thing that Reggie tried to do was, try to rile Darby up. And the great thing is that Darby was like, okay, whatever, and then just kind of walked away, not engaging in Reggie's behavior, because, if she engages in the behavior of Reggie, they're going to get into a fight. Or, a really big play fight, and Reggie will be upset because, she's not the big girl on campus anymore. But just the entire time that Darby was there with the family, it was just nice and quiet. Reggie got to run around with Darby and to really just be a dog. And that's something that is really great. We got to see her as a very calm and cute puppy at that point. She's doing her own thing, and she has a partner, and then we decided to get Cookie, and then everything kind of fell apart. No, Cookie's a great addition to our family, but she's kind of escalates the problems, too. But Darby in particular, I can't see her ever really being aggressive. Maybe for her family, because she seems like a very protective dog, but she also seems just very mild in demeanor, and that's something that, a lot of mediator dogs have, and I can't help but be, a little jealous of my friends to have, such a calm dog. But, hey, we got Reggie, and there's no way Reggie will ever be a mediator dog, because, unless we really train out her excitable behavior, she won't be able to really make decisions. She won't really want to pull herself back in certain situations. She gets really excited. Reggie, as of right now, would not be a good dog mediator. Maybe sometime in the future she could be. We don't know. But overall, you're looking at a dog that is stoic. We can say stoic, right? That doesn't like to see other dogs fight. And a dog that is very sure of themselves. And those are kind of the three big things that I would say when it comes to this. I'm trying to think if there are any other mediator dogs that I've known in the past. But honestly, Darby is the first one that I've ever met. Most of the animals that I've run into have been very calm and, most of the other animals are regularly calm until they see something that just kind of triggers them and they want to go. They want to go, go, go. And, I would probably be that dog. Actually, my husband one time said that I would be, if I were a dog, I'd probably be a toy poodle. I don't believe that. I think they're probably thinking, oh, well, Sam is so sweet, and she's so hyperactive, and that's why she should be a toy poodle. But, no, I disagree wholeheartedly. I don't know what dog I would be, but it would definitely not be that one. But, again, if I were a dog, I don't see myself being a mediator dog because, there's just too much responsibility in that. And there's a possibility that you might get hurt as a mediator dog. But I would suspect that most of the mediator dogs are, slightly bigger. Definitely not in the toy area. Because, if you want others to listen, bigger dogs, kind of get more attention from other dogs. And I actually think of a episode of a Comedy Central show that had these humans acting like dogs in the dog park, and they had a little scene of these two dogs. One of the humans was super tall, and the other one was of average height, and they're pretending to bark and get into a fight and stuff. And then eventually the shorter guy says, okay, you're big, I'll leave you alone. And I sometimes think that neither of those dogs or the humans were mediators for sure. Actually, there was no intervention in that, and that kind of brings me back into, like, the timing. Like, if these people were indeed dogs, like, having good attention on them is very important. You can't just let your dog, like, run around and create destruction everywhere they run around at. Reggie. Actually, Reggie has never been to a dog park yet. But I will say that a mediator dog is something that you should definitely seek out. Through friends or maybe even adopt if you'd like. But again, there are demeanors that are kind of layered, just kind of like how Cookie was. At first, Cookie was very calm and scared, and then she kind of became more confident, and she would be cute still, and she'd be a lap dog. And then we have Cookie as she is now. So, again, she would not be a good mediator. I would say, though, I actually have a question, and I don't know if I'll ever get an answer to this. Maybe I could do some Google searches on it, but are there such thing as mediator cats? Like cats that are mediators? That's something to really think about, actually. I really want to know now. But aside from that, I just want to kind of unwind now. Like, we're talking about training, we're talking about poor behavior in dogs, and, we did end up with mediator dog, which is, pretty relaxing, kind of nice to really talk about, especially relating to our own experience with a mediator dog and how they handle just a single puppy. That's pretty awesome, I think. And I think we definitely need to schedule another time to have a doggy play date. But now we're going to move on to why Cookie likes to be in a bag. And we'll be right back.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
We are back, and, we're going to end the show with talking about Cookie, actually. Now, as I said, she's kind of like a dog and a horse feeder for me. She is now roaming somewhere else as well. Again, listening to and noticing what the dog needs, what your pet needs. But I don't want to talk too much about training anymore, because I want to talk about some fun stuff about, more particularly Cookie in a bag. I was kind of wondering if we could call her Cookie Monster in a bag, but no, that seems like a lot. I don't know. Just one of the great things about just this realization that she likes to be in bags is that she opens up a whole new world for me in just carrying a dog around and, having it hide or having it just kind of, sit around with the head popped out, over the top. And, it's really cute what I imagine here. It could probably be a horrible idea, but I will say that it's very tempting, and I have been training her how to sit in a bag, that Meyer bag. I don't want Cookie to be in the same bag every day. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm gonna gradually become, like, I don't know, just a woman with a ton of bags. And not like handbags. We don't know. We're going for the big shoulder bags. And many colors, actually. So many colors. And I keep on thinking, okay, she's like a cream color, so what matches her? And of course I have like a, I could get like a reddish burgundy kind of bag. That would be good. And of course black is a good way, good way to go too. But there's so many things that I have to consider now, especially if I'm going to carry her around on my days off, from teaching, which who knows how long that's going to be for. I am actually still working. But, man, it just kind of tickles me that I am able to carry this little dog around, and honestly, it kind of acts like a protection from her and Reggie, so that, Reggie doesn't bother her as much as, as she mostly does. And I could just carry her around and just do stuff around the house, like clean up, or, just kind of chill, I guess. But I kind of wish that I could, give Cookie a really comfy kind of space. For instance, maybe I could put like a little blanket in the purse, have her go in there, and if she's not supposed to be somewhere, I could always just drape her with, like, I don't know, a scarf or something, just something that I decided to take off, and, you shouldn't be judging what might be in my purse. It's not lethal, technically. Is it living? Well, I mean, if you want to bring that up, yes. But it's all that kind of stuff, I really kind of enjoy the idea of it, and I'm worried that it's going to be a dream that is not at all what I thought it would be. But as of right now, I'm pretty happy about just the idea of it. And, I've actually tried to get Eisen into this bag thing, but he is too much of a free spirit to really be bound like that. Cookie is easy. Cookie sleeps a lot. And also, well, she lies down a lot. She sits a lot. Sometimes she barks if she can see something, so keep her blind. Maybe even get the thunder cap that I was talking about last episode for me. Oh man, that would be very interesting. It would actually look really dumb, and that's fantastic for Cookie. Because, you can't you can't be too cute. You have to have some goofiness in it. And I always also think of, what's that movie? Legally Blonde, yeah. And I think of Elle, and she's always carrying around Bruiser, and if you guys remember, Bruiser was played by Gidget, the Taco Bell dog, from like a while ago. And just, I'm inspired by that movie, she wasn't carrying her dog into her classes, but she was definitely carrying Bruiser around whenever she wanted, wherever she wanted. And I really want that. Does that make me a little crazy? No, hopefully not. But I really want to see more depictions of people with dogs in their bag. Actually, this is a really funny thing that I just remembered. My husband actually had Cookie in a bag. Well, no, not even in a bag. She was just in her harness, and she was kind of like curled up under his arm. He went into the library and dropped off some books. And he just walked in, dropped off the books, and walked out. Nobody talked to him. So, if he can do it, why can't I? Right? Well, either way, I think that Cookie needs a little bit more of a she needs to be more of a ham. She needs to be in the limelight right now. Because, she's old. And also the entire thing with carrying her in a bag, you don't see how nasty she looks. And I want to excuse myself for that because, well, Cookie is difficult to groom. And I think I've mentioned this already. Like, for the most part, she has a lot of parts on her, her back is nice and groomed, but then her face and her feet look all janky. I'm not sure what to do with that. It's pretty awful. I know that, groomer would not have any better luck, especially when trimming her claws, but it's so weird that I can't do anything about what she looks like aside from stuffing her in a bag and maybe putting on a cute little dress on her. Oh my gosh, Amazon is in deep trouble. Deep, deep, deep trouble. Because I'm going to go and get some. Next paycheck. Well, if Reggie were smaller, she would most definitely go into a bag too. But we're talking about Cookie here. And Cookie deserves this, in my opinion. And she just looks so cute in the bag, and she's so calm in the bag. I really want to get a nice, what kind of purse would I get for her? Let's see. Maybe it would be definitely a shoulder bag. What color? Should there be a pattern on it? Should I choose a specific color? What kind of material is it made out of? All of these things. Well, now that Cookie's going to be in a bag, well, she needs to have the nice stuff. Because, well, Cookie deserves nice stuff. Right? Anyone who disagrees with me, we're immediate enemies. Please. But still love me. But I do think that there is a chance that Cookie will be very uncomfortable and she would feel very nervous in a bag, especially if I went out in public with a lot of people, which I tend to avoid. But if that happens, then I guess, that's one reason to keep Cookie out of the bag and carrying her around. Or I could just avoid the place in general. And I do dream of a time when I have other pets that I can put into little bags and stuff. Like, honestly, you know what? I was mentioning that I had that family dog that, happened to also be a toy poodle. And her name was Jade. R.I.P. I love her to death. And I never put Jade in a bag before. Never. And she was just the size she was slightly bigger than Cookie. Maybe? No, she was a little bit smaller than her. But I can't believe I never took a chance for that. I never thought of it. Darn high school, always keeping me busy. And, I guess now is the time that I can just live, Jade can live vicariously through Cookie. Though, I imagine that Jade would be very jealous. But, I just don't know. Am I betraying a little dog for putting another dog in a bag and then carrying her around? Some would say no. Some might say yes. As of right now, I'm just not sure. But for the time being, I'm going to be shopping around for bags to put Cookie in. And hopefully, I'll be able to make it a regular thing to take her outside with me. Take her on little rides while she's in my bag, all that kind of stuff. Man, I think she needs like a crown embroidered or like bedazzled onto the bag. And the bag has to be, I would say olive green, just to make her seem earthier and more down to earth, which means that it's not saying that she is herself, but she is a calmer self. I don't know, but I will say that everyone has these crazy choices that they have to make, and I just don't really know. Should we do it? Should we not? I'll decide soon. Maybe Amazon's going to be the deciding factor of it all. But I do want to thank you guys for listening to the GSMC Pets podcast, which is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like you guys to please remember to subscribe and, write a nice review. If you can, I want you to kind of join in on the conversation of whether or not I should get a bag for Cookie strictly for walking around outside. And let me put this into perspective. Cookie's like 12 pounds. And she's compact. But anyway, the reviews will definitely help us and hopefully help me with this entire scenario. But, also, I might post some pictures of Cookie in a bag, so just, follow us on Facebook. You might see a picture of her in there. Maybe Twitter, because I live on Twitter, and I definitely put pictures of my dogs on Twitter. And then also, you can check out Instagram, and again, a picture place, I'm going to post pictures of my pets. But anyway, thank you, and I want you guys to have a good night.
You've been listening to the GSMC Pets Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.